All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to ETH Bangkok 2024. We are extremely excited to be here. We are Kinto. My name is Victor Sanchez, and I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of the chain. Today, we're going to go through a couple of things, but we're going to start on first, what's Kinto, why is the reason to build on Kinto, and a little bit on the specifics on how to make it work during the hackathon. And of course, we're going to take a look at the prices as well. So let's start on why to build on Kinto. First of all, it's important to understand that Kinto is fully EVM compatible, which means that everything that you already know about EVM, you're going to be able to use on Kinto no matter what. So if you already are thinking on pretending to build an EVM application, you're going to be able to deploy it on Kinto, no issue. However, there are three important things that you need to know if you're thinking on developing on Kinto. First of all is that, yes, and do not run yet, I promise, there is an explanation for this. You have to be KYC'd or KYB'd on Kinto in order to both develop and manage the applications. However, and this is really important, this KYC and KYB is never stored on chain, and it's done in the more privacy-preserving way possible. Your information will never be stored on chain. It will never leave the KYC provider that you choose from an initial list of 3, and you will create essentially this Kinto wallet with the Kinto ID, which is a surrogate for that onboarding process, and you will be able to check if an account is KYC'd or not, if it's sanction safe or not in a given jurisdiction, and most importantly, you will be able to do all of that with one line of code, checking those 3 flags that I just mentioned. Another very important thing is that everything on Kinto is account abstraction. We are EIP 4337 compatible, and everyone, including you, developers, are going to be creating a smart contract wallet. This smart contract wallet, called the Memory Wallet, will allow you to do several very important things. First, save a ton of gas. In fact, for final users, Kinto is a gasless experience. It means that through the sponsor paymaster and our developer portal, you are going to be able to pay for the transactions of these KYC and KYB users, and they are not going to require Ethereum Kinto in order to make those transactions happen. We are going to offer you, however, because we know that it can be daunting, right, to do user operations right away, especially if you have never been touched by EIP 4337 or by a smart contract wallets, you are going to be able to use our Kinto Wallet SDK with just a few lines of code. Finally, you will see that we have streamlined the chain and all its applications for user experience, and this includes you, developers. So, if I haven't convinced you yet about why to build on Kinto, let me add 20,000 more reasons on top of that. We are going to be choosing our best Kinto app overall and give it a price of $7,500. And then we're going to open 2 tracks, the Smart Contract API track and the Kinto Wallet SDK track. First and second place, $3,500, $1,500 in both of those categories. Finally, you are a student. Please make sure to let me know directly on your application when you send at the end of the hackathon on Saturday night, and make sure as well to take care of your UX and UI, because there is a special price as well for UX and UI. Finally, I'm going to be releasing before the end of the afternoon documentation for Ben, our integrated security firewall, and we have our partners right there, Joanna, and there's going to be as well for the best Ben integration, a price of $500. All right, so without further ado, what is Kinto? Kinto, oh, too fast. That's something that happens with me, sorry. So, Kinto is the first L2 developed on the Arbitrum Nitro stack, and we like to say that we are what base is to optimism, Kinto is to Arbitrum. Basically, we run parallel to Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova, therefore we settle directly in mainnet. Our mission is to create a safe space for developers, DeFi and TradFi to engage on. And that's why, and now you are understanding already that KYC aspect of it. Just yesterday, a big TradFi institution from Europe deployed 20 million of TVL thanks to these protections that I mentioned before. Our 2 pillars are security and usability. I have explained security a little bit, but security doesn't matter if you are a new user that have never touched crypto. The dream of Kinto as an L2 is for people to forget that they are using an L2. We will see ourselves as a DeFi super app thanks to that usability prospects that I'm going to be commenting as part of my talk. So, Kinto is designed for developers, and it doesn't matter if you are a veteran or you are just starting. what you're going to see is, first of all, you have that permissionless and decentralized KYC, KYB. It's still permissionless because anyone can start that process and no one can stop you from doing that. We just have added one consensus rule to the stack, to the Arbitrum consensus stack. We have modified Geth in order to do this, in order to have that guarantee that we know who the counterparty is and which jurisdiction they are on. But once more, that PII will never be transferred to any peer, on-chain, or to any of the partners that you use unless you sign that data. Finally, we are, as I said, fully EVM compatible, and we are not only providing that free KYC that I mentioned before, we are also doing constant analysis for anti-money laundering. We are doing KYT. We are analyzing statically and dynamically every contract deployed and every transaction made. So we are able to freeze those Kinto ID that I mentioned at the beginning in case that a malicious attack or a malicious contract is detected on the chain. This, by the way, allows us to do something that is a very first on the world of L2s, and is that we have partnered with Bridge and Hypernative to offer insurance at the chain level. Every single wallet on Kinto has up to $2,500 against the smart contract hacks insured, and you can buy additional tiers of insurance through the Kinto application. A few differences that are very important. So as I mentioned, right, we are using these smart contract wallets by default on Kinto. This is really important because what happened to EOAs? Well, EOAs can be signers of that smart contract wallet, but EOAs cannot on their own interact with the chain. Everything is a user operation that goes directly to the entry point that we have developed. Therefore, all users need a smart contract wallet. And as part of that onboarding that I mentioned, when you go to the KYC, you also will deploy your smart contract wallet, will receive on the background, thanks to the sponsor paymaster, the necessary gas, and users will experience it as a gasless overall experience. Another very important thing, all users need a valid Kinto ID. The wallet has an NFT, a soul-bound NFT called the Kinto ID, that is the one that stores the flags that I mentioned before. Is KYC, is KYB, is safe in this jurisdiction, and other useful wallets that we will see as part of our API. Finally, basically, these KYC and compliance rules are enforced at the node level, which means that this cannot be hacked through smart contracts, right? Because these consensus rules reside in this modification that we have done at the Geth level. All right. Whoops. Sorry about that. Press the wrong button for a second. Apologies. Let's go back. I'm going to stay here, even though I don't like the stand. So how does it work? Basically, the first time that the user arrives to Kinto, they are going to have to select a KYC or a KYB provider, CNAP, Platts, and we have recently added on FIDO. One that the user completes the KYC or the KYB process, those are going to be stored in the KYC provider, and it checks that PII, but it never leaves, it never stores on the chain. After this, basically, on the successful KYC, we're going to create, through the Kinto identity node, your wallet and your Kinto ID. And not only that, we are also creating, this is a multi-sig wallet, which is really important to offer that level of security that we were mentioning before. But that first signer is a turnkey managed signer that is triggered to either your biometrics, so your fingerprint or your face, or your device itself, or your password manager, if you have it. Once that you have cleared all of this process, you will end up with a Kinto wallet with at least 2 signers, the first one being triggered to your biometrics, a Kinto ID that is cleared to operate on the chain. So let's talk a little bit about the wallet. As I mentioned before, if you are familiar with EIP 4337, this wallet is absolutely compatible with the standard. It's a multi-sig by default, as I mentioned before, and it has integrated these KYC, AML, KYT, and security-based rules. There is also these passkey-based signatures that makes it extremely easy to use. And when you go through the process, you will see that you can do KYC, create the transaction, go against the faucet, deploy your first contract in literally putting your finger a couple of times on top of your laptop. There is another very important thing, as there is no pet eating your 24 words or a boating accident losing your Kinto wallet, because thanks to that KYC system, you can also recover your wallet. I won't mention who lost it already, but we have a user, a very big whale, that lost access to their wallet, and by re-KYCing, they were able to recover the wallet through that recovery signer that we have as part of the Kinto wallet. Finally, is that easy and straightforward UX that I was mentioning at the beginning, and that you can experience at engen.kinto.syc/onboarding. Now, everything that I'm gonna talk from now until the next 16 minutes is almost step-by-step our development guide. If you go to docs.kinto.xyz and find development guide, you will see, and I promise we stand by our word, a 10-minute setup. That 10-minute setup will imply doing your KYC, setting up your deployer EOA, preparing your environment setup, and finally creating your first Kinto app and using it. And I promise it's exactly 10 minutes. So let's take a look at that process a little bit. First of all, you're gonna have to set up your deployer EOA. This is very important. As I told you before, everyone, including the developers, are gonna need to have a smart contract wallet, right? However, developers, I'm gonna let you cheat. And the way I'm gonna let you cheat is, basically, you can nominate an EOA that you're gonna use to deploy and to set up your own contracts. How do you do that? You go to engen.kinto.xyz/developer. Don't worry, it's all on the guide, as I mentioned before, so no need to take notes. And just copy and paste the public address of your deployer EOA, set your deployer account, put your fat finger or show your face to the laptop to make that signature, and you're gonna have that ready. And you're gonna come to the developer portal. In the developer portal, you will see what is your wallet, what is your deployer EOA, and you're gonna be able to do two things from this screen, both very important. One, add balance to your deployer EOA so you can operate against those contracts that you are generating. You're gonna be able to create new apps. And as you see here, I have already my Victor test counter. So you're gonna be able as well to top the paymaster for the test counter. So again, if someone wants to increment my counter, they are never gonna require gas, right? Kinto if in order to do so, because the paymaster pays for the entire party. All right. 1 second. So how do you create your first app on Kinto? Basically, you are gonna arrive and all of the apps on Kinto, and this is another of the kind of beautiful things of Kinto, is a 721 NFT. So basically, you're gonna create this NFT that has a couple of things. Number one, you have all of the contracts that are gonna be part of your application. So if your application has one contract, it's very easy, but let's say that you deploy 20, 40, 50 on that piece. So this NFT has a list of all of the contracts that are included as part of your applications. You also can include more than one EOA. Obviously, we mentioned before that you had that ability of having one EOA that interacts with your contracts, but it may be that your security model requires more than one EOA to directly, without the user operation, attack those contracts. You are gonna be able to do so. Finally, the metadata also includes the details of the sponsor paymaster. Another of the beauties of having Kinto's apps as NFTs is that you can very easily transfer or burn those applications as part of your development process. So, you know, it hasn't happened yet, I believe, but you could literally sell your application to someone else if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. All right, so the first thing that you're gonna do in order to get started with Kinto is you're gonna set up our RPC. You're gonna get your private key of that developer EOA. Obviously, that never leaves your computer. You're gonna, for instance, try to deploy a contract, in this case, a simple counter. And once that you have your counter address, you are gonna go back and click on that new app button that I told you before. You are gonna key in here the address of your counter, and then you're gonna be able to establish rate limits for who can use your paymaster and how. Obviously, there could be DDoS attacks, right, against your paymaster. So you want to make sure to know, hey, what is the gas limit per amount of seconds, or what is the number of requests that each of one of those addresses that is using my app can do. And of course, you are able to charge as part of your application whatever you want. But the gas for those transactions are gonna come for what you top tap on your application in the developer portal. So, okay, so once that the app is created, now you can directly start working with the wallet SDK. So as I mentioned before, this can be kind of challenging, right? If you have never sent a user operation before, doing that UI and preparing and packaging those user operations to the entry point could be a little bit challenging. However, we have prepared for you this Kinto Web SDK. Download the example and take a look at exactly this. You're gonna need to put your app address, in this case, the address of your counter when you start as part of the guide. And you're going to call to the line, create Kinto SDK with that app address. Once that you call it to the connect method, you're going to be able to start sending transactions. And those transactions, those user operations, are going to be as easy as, let me know where are you sending that transaction to, in this case, the counter address. Let me know the value of that transaction, one Ether way if you want to, and the data in hexadecimal that you are sending. From that moment on, the SDK takes care of everything else. And this, by the way, is an array. You can send as many user operations on that transaction as you wish. Once you have it, Kinto SDK.send transaction, and you have a wonderful promise on the other side to either have the successful hash or an error coming from here. If it's the first time that they connect, they are going to need to do the same thing that you did, going through that process of doing the KYC, creating their wallet, etc. How do you do it on your side? Extremely easy. Call to Kinto SDK, create a new wallet, and you're going to trigger that process on your web application directly. So there is a React SDK example that we have done that integrates already my counter, so you can test it and increment it. And you can see kind of all of the methods that are part of the Kinto Web Wallet SDK. So you can just download the React SDK example. Again, all of those links are in the guide that I mentioned at the beginning. Click on Yarn install, and you're going to be able to get those packages. As I mentioned, one of them, the Kinto Wallet SDK. Make sure that you create a valid SSL certificate for your project in localhost. This is important because as part of the passkey, you require SSL to make those signatures work with the passkey. So it's really important that you don't miss this step. It's just 3 lines, but without this, it won't work. And on the previous hackathon, I went through over this with like 20 teams or something like that. So I added this slide. Please remember to create the SSL certificate before getting started. Once that you have it, make sure that you add that dev.kinto.xyz or whatever you are calling your application, redirect into your local host. And of course, it needs to match the SSL certificate that you just created. Once that you have that, you're gonna start, and you're gonna be able to start editing this. You will see that the files by default are called dev.kinto.xyz pm, dev.kinto.xyz key.pm, and you have them directly in your package.json. If you have another name, make sure to edit them. Make sure that you put your contract address on the app transaction, and when you have it, you will be able to see this. You will click on login sign up that will connect your Kinto wallet. Once you do that, you will be able to increase the counter and send the first example user operation. As I mentioned before, well, it's, as you see, this counter increases. This is my application. I will be paying for a lot of gas for all of you to pay those increments, but play around. Feel free to try to hack my app or try to type my sponsor paymaster rules, see if you can break it. All right, there is as well a smart contract API, and as I mentioned before, a smart contract reference. So if you go, a smart contract tracks and prices as well. Go to smart contract reference on docs.kinto.xyz, and you will find a lot of very useful contracts. I recommend that you start in one called the KYC viewer. The KYC viewer has very useful methods like, is this address, which is my wallet, an individual? Yes or no. Is this KYC? And you will see that there are others like, is company? And you will see others like, is sanction safe, et cetera, et cetera. So you can make very useful applications. Like for instance, Dinari, I don't know if you are familiar with them. They do stocks on chain. They have deployed on Kinto, and they use these methods to determine if you can buy US stocks or Canada stocks on Kinto. Can you hold Tesla, yes or no, depending on some of these flags. And this is one of the examples that we have in here. So, a smart contracts API, I'm not going to go into detail in there because our time is limited, but basically, remember that the idea is exactly the same. You have these user operation arrays that you're going to create, and once more, if you have never created a user operation, what you need to know is that our Kinto core repository includes helpers that will allow you to create user operation at the smart contract level with a helper that is extremely useful. Give me the blockchain ID, give me what is the source and the destination, give me the value, give me the nonce, give me the private keys that are on that array that we show at the beginning, and then encode with signature whatever you want to do. You are going to start always with whitelisting the app on the wallet. That is another of the security features that Kinto has. But then the next transaction is going to be one more, create user operation, and the only two things that you need to care about is increase the nonce, and then call increment into this case. So again, you can decide to do that with the very easy to integrate web wallet SDK, or do it directly in your smart contract. And there are different tracks, different prices, and different benefits to both options. Finally, as I mentioned before, all of this is in docs.kinto.xyz. You have as well that development setup. These are all the links that are going to be available as well in there. But if you are watching this online or you are watching it after the hackathon, you will have a reference always on this spot. We have a very active developer community on Kinto, so make sure that to join not only the ETHGlobal Discord, but discord.com/invite/Kinto to talk with our community of developers. And I want to finish, and hopefully I have a few minutes for questions after this, but I want to finish mentioning something extremely important. I have been working together with my two co-founders and an excellent smart contract developer now for almost 7 months to put together a lot of stuff. You have the stack, Arbitrum. You have the infrastructure. Caldera is our infrastructure, sorry, our chain as a service service. You have things like Netlify for the website. You have Fauna for the things that we cannot put anywhere else. You have RPC nodes like Nodis, Anchor, and QuickNode that give you global access wherever you are with a fraction of a second. You have security with Hibernatives, chain analysis, iron blocks. You have KYC, KYB, and AML providers integrated in this chain. Whoops, there we go. You have things like the data availability layer. You have the sequencer, decentralized sequencers, explorers like Block Scout. You have the bridging that goes through Socket and allows you to do chain abstraction and do swaps with other chains. You have the bundler with Pimlico. You have an on-ramp with Coinbase. You have turnkey utils and wallet through Dynamic Chain, which allow you to do things like connecting your Twitter account as a signer. The reality of it all, though, is that none of this matters. The reality is that all of this is work that we have done for you, the developers, because we believe that the killer application is not any of these features that we have hammered our way through to make this chain possible. The reality is that we are here today because the killer app is going to come from you, not from us, and we are really looking forward to see what you guys build with them. With this said, thank you. Welcome to ETH Bangkok 2024, and I'm looking forward to see what you build on Kinto. All right, that's a record for me. I'm a Spaniard. My DNA doesn't allow me to summarize or to speak slow. So yeah, I have 4 minutes for questions. So if anyone has a question, I'm very happy to answer. Any questions? All right.
Hello. So I want to ask, is the smart contract APIs is compatible to other EVM chain?
100%. All of our smart contracts APIs that I show you on that reference, they are EVM compatible. Everything is Solidity. So if you are, if you have contracts for your application in any other EVM chain, you can literally take the same contract at one line. If is KYC, if is sanction safe in this jurisdiction, and you are done.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. More questions if you have them. 2 minutes. If not, do you have an idea? Do you know what you're going to build on Kinto? If you want to pitch it, this is the time. Please, yes. Can we? Yeah, thank you so much.
So my question is, does Kinto support those Omni solution like Layer 0? Because you guys using the account abstraction, right? So I don't know if it's, when we implement that, if there's going to be any issues. Have you tried that?
So right now, Layer 0 is not connected to Kinto. We use, however, an alternative solution from SuperSocket. It's called the Super Bridge. You can take a look at the documentation as well on our docs. But if you have any questions, I will be at our booth, and I can help you out doing, any cross-messaging chain. Any cross-messaging message that you need to send, or if you want to bridge items, I can help you out with that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? 60 seconds. No? All right. In that case, thank you very much. Enjoy the hackathon. And yeah, I hope that you sleep more than what I'm planning to do. But I think, yeah, all of you won't sleep at all. Have a good one, everyone. Cheers.